Welcome to Albuquerque Real Estate Talk, episode 458 with Tigo and Tracy Venturi of the Venturi Group of Real Broker here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, voted the number 2 Albuquerque podcast in Albuquerque. Something happened this week that came up, and so we'll talk about that in a second. Anyway, Tracy, great to be here. We've been kind of missing for a couple of weeks. I had the assessor on a few weeks ago. We weren't able to do the show last week just because a lot of stuff.
Busy real estate.
Yeah, busy real estate, which is good. But we come here every week talking about the residential real estate market in Albuquerque and around the country as well. So what do we have this week, Tracy?
So we are going to talk market statistics, right?
Of course we are.
We can't miss that. We're also going to talk about vacant land. You know, we haven't talked about it for quite a while, and there's a lot of things to know. So we'll talk about vacant land. What else?
We had 2 questions that came up, a buyer question, a seller question. So we'll do some questions of the week as it relates to the real estate market and things that buyers and sellers are asking when they're buying and selling.
Great. Let's jump right in. I know you've had a few interviews this week where people have asked you to talk about market statistics for Albuquerque metro area. So what's going on in real estate, Tigo?
You know, the news in the last few weeks has been interest rates. Imagine that. Mortgage interest rates is still dominating the story when we talk about real estate in the entire country. And because, of course, you know, mortgage rates are nationwide. It's not just a local phenomenon. And what's happened is mortgage rates have bumped up to another all-time high. Which, let's see, if I look at the chart.
All-time 20-year, you mean?
Yeah, 20 years. Yeah, you're right.
Not all-time.
Yeah, not all-time.
All-time is much, 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 much higher. I mean, we know people who had 18% interest rates.
Very good point. Thank you.
We know people who slept overnight outside of a bank to get a 12% first-time home buyer.
Yeah, mortgage.
That was a mortgage.
Right.
That was my sister.
Since the 80s, since the mid-late 80s
right.
Yeah, and what's the good news is the economy's strong in the United States. The bad news is when the economy's strong and there's a threat of inflation or more inflation, the Federal Reserve and different entities are going to do what they can to slow down the economy. And one of the biggest tools they have to slow down the economy is interest rates.
The prime rate.
Yeah, the prime rate, which affects the cost of money.
Or the Fed rate.
I'll say it again, and I say it all the time, is the Fed rate. It does not directly affect mortgage rates, but the Fed rate and what the Fed charges interbank affects the cost of money in general, which then trickles down into the bond market, when the bond market then affects mortgage rates. And so there's still a lot of uncertainty out there. But yeah, mortgage rates, low to mid sevens for well qualified, and for maybe not so well qualified, it could be even a little higher than that. I've heard some 8-handle mortgages out there these days.
8-handle?
8-handle.
Is that mortgage speak?
That's the hip cool way to say it.
That's saying it's an 8% interest rate.
8 or more. Yeah. Because I'm hip and cool,
Too hip for me. Okay. So what else?
And so that's the big story. And along with that is affordability challenges. Home affordability is at a pretty low number right now, just because of the appreciation we've had over the last couple of years, as well as these mortgage rates. And what's happened is people that were, let's say, I'm trying to, the right term, I heard somebody say it this way, marginal buyers or marginal sellers. But when you say marginal, you think of it as somebody,
marginal.
Yeah, like there's something.
Like there's something wrong.
But what it means in this context is they don't really have to sell and they don't really have to buy. So there's, people that are locked in at, low mortgage rates and they don't really have a super need to move. They're staying put. And so what we've seen is a lot less homes coming on the market than we have in a really, really long time, and people just not moving as often. But there's still a lot of people out there buying and selling. Here in Albuquerque, we see, 250, 300 homes go under contract every single week. So it's not like nobody's buying homes and nobody's selling homes. It's just a much smaller number than we've seen in recent years. Along with that, though, is so we've kind of got this. I saw an interview with Logan Motoshami, who's the Housing Wire market guy, market stats guy. He was on CNBC, and he was just saying, yeah, we're in a housing recession. And the person that was interviewing him, she said, well, home prices have gone down. He goes, yeah, that's not my point. Right. We're in a housing recession in sales. The number of sales has dropped drastically. And just to give you an example, here in Albuquerque, it's, maybe 20% less homes are selling than just last year. But prices, on the other hand, have continued to go up in most parts of the country, Albuquerque here in particular. And one last thing to cap off the weekly update is the number of homes on the market here in the greater Albuquerque area seems to have plateaued. Not as many people listing. We're still kind of basically have this equilibrium between homes coming on the market, homes going off the market. We're still at a very low supply level, low inventory, whatever you want to call it, low number of homes on the market for sure. And there's still demand out there. So home prices have been steady or strong. So we'll kind of see how it goes into fall. Usually we do see home prices take a breather this time of year. We don't see continued appreciation. The only years we saw that was in 2021 and 22. Home price appreciation continued all the way through late summer into winter. Very unusual. Where last year, well, in 22, I take that back. We did see a pullback through the winter, and we'll probably see a little bit of that this year. So
Typically,
a lot there to digest.
The charts historical going back like 30 years show that's very common every year.
Yeah.
So nothing unusual there.
So you have the seasonal patterns, and we do seem to be more into a normal seasonal pattern, unlike we had in 20 and 21 for sure. So that's the quick market update. I know it could be way longer. We know that.
I know you could keep going.
I could keep going. But the point is, people are buying and selling homes, that need to buy and sell homes. Mortgage rates are high. Affordability is tough. But, like I told a whole big room of realtors the other day, it's like, yep, affordability is pretty crappy here in Albuquerque. But you know what? It's better than a lot of other markets.
A lot better than a lot of markets nearby.
Yeah.
So, Tigo, good job on all of the community things you did
I don't even think
week.
we gave our phone number when we started the show, so we better do that. We got to be official here. It's the Venturi Group with Real Broker here in Albuquerque, and you can reach us at 505-448-8888.
And on YouTube, on Facebook, on Welcome Home ABQ.
All those places.
All those great places. So let's talk about land.
Yes.
So you sent me a beautiful sheet of definitions about land, and I read through it and I went, yeah, these are really nice definitions. And then I thought, but the reality when we get people calling us talking, that they want to buy land is that, first of all, I'm saying, what do you want to use the land for? We had somebody recently, they've purchased 2 parcels from us, very affordable lots that they just want to park some money and leave it for years and years. So they were just like, yeah, maybe it'll grow while, the next 20, 30 years, but they weren't looking to build on it. They just wanted to have something invested in land. So,
and that's not an uncommon thing at all, especially in New Mexico, because we have so much of it. But yeah, you park some money in some vacant land, very low cost to hold land. Basically, you're just paying taxes.
Assuming it's not in a HOA or something, which if you buy a Mariposa lot, you still have to pay the homeowners association dues and things.
Point.
But, these lots, one was Southwest, one was in Rio Rancho, low dollar. And, they said, we're still a ways from development, but maybe in my lifetime, it'll get better. So there's the whole, what do you want to do with the land, Tigo? So do you just want to hold it? Do you want to build on it? Do you want to build on it in the future? What's the vision, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a huge difference in the land if you want to build on it and maybe in the future versus, like in the next couple of years. There's a lot of implications. And what we very often do is say, have you already found a builder? Right? You want to find land. You already have the builder in place.
And you're saying this in the context of somebody that's saying, you know what, I am going to build my custom home.
Right. I'm going to build a house.
Yeah.
And it might be a semi-custom home.
Right.
So the differences in land. So I
wait, I just want to clarify something. You said builder. So like when you're searching for land, should you find the land first or should you find the builder first?
You should call us first.
Oh,
and we can connect everything. The thing is, when I have seen people who've gone out and bought a lot, they drove around, they picked a lot, they bought it.
It was a good deal.
Maybe it was a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go to do building plans and they didn't realize that some of the utilities they thought might be there aren't there, or how much it's going to cost to bring utilities to that lot. They knew that it didn't have the utilities perhaps, but they hadn't already done an estimate to bring electric a quarter mile or gas a quarter mile. Or they didn't know that maybe along the river there's caliche, that clay, and you have to do dirt work. And sometimes that dirt work is $30,000. So you might get a cheap lot and all of a sudden realize it's $20,000 to bring utilities. You're going to need a septic tank, and that's going to be $8,000 to $12,000. And you might need, or more, you might need to redo the dirt work and bring in engineered fill dirt or do something to make sure that it's not going to have foundation issues in the future. So it's one of those things where it's really important to have a land expert in your corner, somebody who's worked with a lot of land, maybe worked with a lot of builders, that really knows what you're looking for.
So one thing that comes up a lot is we hear people saying, well, I'm going to get a loan on my land. And then we say, well, is it developed or undeveloped? And they go, well, what does that mean?
Right.
And so I just going through this definition of what is developed land versus undeveloped land. And the short of it is, developed land means that it has man-made improvements on the property. So it could be roads, utilities, could even be structures. But generally it's your utilities and your roads. And it may even, generate income. So there's land that you could buy and maybe it becomes an RV storage, right? But would still maybe have some utility, some sort of service. And that could be a developed land. Now, the thing is, if it's developed, meaning it has services to the property, you can probably get a loan on that. Now, it's not going to be like a traditional 30-year fixed rate residential mortgage, but you could get a loan on it. And then we have undeveloped land. We're in New Mexico. We have a lot of undeveloped land. No pun intended, lots. That wasn't funny, was it?
No.
I tried.
Okay.
It was kind of like dad joke territory, right? Okay.
It wasn't funny.
So undeveloped lot. We have a lot of undeveloped lots, meaning it's maybe been subdivided at some point. Maybe it was a meets and bounds kind of subdivision where it actually wasn't subdivided, but it was actually, platted out, cut up into different ownership parcels. But it's not going to have any improvements, not going to have any structures. Sometimes it has roads, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it has legal access, sometimes it doesn't have legal access. So that's undeveloped land. And in most cases, it's pretty difficult to get financing for undeveloped land. So a lot of times undeveloped land gets sold by seller financing, real estate contract, or it could get sold with some alternative financing, kind of what we call hard money lending too. But again,
or cash.
Yeah.
Or it could be a trade or an exchange.
Could be a trade or exchange.
You know a lot about, right?
That's a whole nother conversation.
We sold a piece of land in the North Valley about 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was on Ranchitos.
Yep. We took a house.
We took a house
in trade,
and we paid the difference between what the land value was and the house value.
Mm-hmm.
And it made it work because at the time there wasn't a big market for the land, but there was a decent market for the house.
Well, at the time that was probably 2013, and the housing market was pretty flooded with supply.
It was not a good time for land or houses at the time, but it worked for us and for the seller because the seller had to leave the state and didn't want to leave the house sitting empty and keep paying taxes and utilities on it, whereas they could trade into the land and they didn't have to worry so much about the actual house structure because
Right.
it was vacant land.
Which is vacant land.
So it was much easier for them to take on vacant land.
And in that case, just to wrap up that story, in that case, we use the land because the land value is not as much as the value of the home. The land value is less. But we use the land value as down payment, and then the seller financed the back. No, I got a loan.
We got a loan.
We got
for
a
the
loan
rest.
on that one.
Yeah.
But we're able to use the land as the equity in that new property. So, boy, we kind of got off track there, but I just want to, bring that up because I don't think people realize there's a lot of different ways you can put deals together like that when we're dealing with land, which is a little bit harder to sell.
So now we've got some definitions and some information. I'm going to give some specifics.
Awesome.
So I think about North Albuquerque Acres land, and we've helped quite a few people buy and sell North Albuquerque Acres, north of Paseo, sort of from maybe Wyoming east to the base of the mountains or to Tramway or whatever.
Well, there's that area south of Paseo too, but yeah, I know. Anyway.
A little bit south of Paseo towards the north side of Tano on there. So North Albuquerque Acres land, I've had people want to buy there and they want to build a custom home now or in the future. And the thing about it is the prices and the value of the land there varies greatly because it's close to the foothills and there's a lot of arroyos that go through North Albuquerque Acres, and a lot of the roads there are dirt. There's some paved, but there's still people with horses and farm animals in North Albuquerque Acres, which is great for those that like that, and not great for people who don't like it. But the land value can vary greatly because some of it is impacted by flood zone. And when you buy a lot that has some flood zone through it, part of it might be buildable and part of it might not be. So you have to get an engineer to go in and say, this 1/3 part of the lot you can build on, or you would need to build up the soil.
Or the other situation is the part that you need to build on is on the other side of the arroyo or the drainage or whatever you want to call it. And so now you have to deal with getting across that to even get to the spot where you want to build.
And one of the things about that is you can't obstruct and change the water flow to affect other people down the arroyo. So that the lots and the houses next to you, you can't divert that arroyo away from your lot and make it go on someone else's property. So there's a whole engineer report that goes into the water flow, where you can build, and if you need to build up the soil level to be more out of the floodplain, if you need a bridge, if you need a culvert, how it all works. And all of that can be expensive. So I looked and I saw the cheapest lot sold recently in North Albuquerque Acres was $120,000.
And that's basically an acre. They call them NAA acres because they're
0.89 typically.
Yeah.
And this one was 0.89. There are a few that are like 0.73, some a little bigger, like 0.98 on Elena.
So it's listed for that, or
no, it's sold for that.
Okay.
Sold for 120. But I had looked this property up this week.
That seems cheap.
Well, yeah, it's not really buildable. It's got floodplain on most of the lot. You're going to have to really do a good engineer report to figure out how to work with that land and not make the water flow poorly on the neighbor next door. It doesn't have a big building envelope, so to speak, and it's going to cost a lot if you want to build on that lot.
Got it.
It might be somebody just wants to hold it, but to build on it's going to be back up to that 200,000+ that the rest of the lots. So just for comparison, the most monies or the highest price sold for a lot in North Albuquerque Acres, 1.03 was $590. So very high price.
1.03
acres.
Okay, I thought you were saying 1.303 million.
No, sorry.
Okay, 1.03 acres for how much? I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
590,000.
Never interrupt you.
Yeah, never. So the average price per acre in North Albuquerque Acres of all of the sold properties was $264,000 an acre.
Interesting.
And most of them are here under an acre.
Yeah.
But that's the average. But you know what else is interesting about that? The average days on market from putting it on the market to closed or to pending was 190. But of the current North Albuquerque acre lots that are listed for sale, they've been on the market on average 515 days.
So there's
year and a half.
definitely some properties that have some challenges, and there's a reason they're not selling.
Right.
Would you
They're
say? I
not,
mean,
yeah, they're not priced
I
for,
haven't looked at it, but I mean, I'm just guessing that
yeah.
based on that. Yeah.
There are 4 in pending sale. And interestingly enough, average days on market is 205.
Interesting.
One of them, though, was 8 days on market. So, the rest of them, there was one for 545 days on market. So
I don't know if you did any research on this, but I'm going to ask it is, if somebody's wanting to build a custom home, they want to, find their property and build a house on it. They've got a few choices around Albuquerque, something that might have infrastructure at least nearby. What are their options? Where can they go if they want to build a custom home?
well, we've got infill lots, which is on that cheat sheet you gave of what are definitions. Infill lots are lots that are kind of left in neighborhoods where there's existing homes,
Yeah.
right? They're all over the city. They're in Northeast, they're in the Valley, they're in Rio Rancho, Las Lunas, whatever. So infill lots are possibilities because we know if there are houses next door, there's probably at least electricity. You don't have to have natural gas to build. You can do propane. You don't have to have a sewer line to build. You can do septics.
Mhm.
So or electric is really the one that you need to have. And if there's houses in the area and there's a lot that kind of got missed or somebody never built on, those infill lots are everywhere.
You just made an interesting point, and I think I just want to highlight it because if you don't have interest, so let's think about all these properties in Rio Rancho where we have half-acre lots that are, a lot of them are undeveloped. But the thing that you can't just kind of go and get yourself is electric, because you can dig a well to get your water, you can put in a septic system to do your septic, you can do propane to get gas. But electric is a tough one to do yourself.
We've had people call and they want to build out in Rio Rancho where there are no utilities and they want to put up solar or something to generate electricity and
Do
be off the grid.
Off
And
the
there
grid,
are
yeah.
a few off the grids out there. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what services they really have, but they have to haul water.
Yep.
The well depth there is very deep unless they, drill for their own water and have the electricity to run the pump. It would be expensive. They might as well come closer in and get a lot that has utilities. So speaking of that, I have some stats that
Okay.
different. So
Wait.
I know.
Wait.
I know.
You have stats?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So
Man.
vacant land in our multiple listing service,
Yeah.
3,029 listings right now.
Okay.
In our MLS. When I change that search and say must have gas and electric in the street, somewhere available close in the street, on the property, stubbed in, whatever, that drops from 3,029 to 596.
Got it, about 600.
So 600 parcels where in our whole MLS, which could be Grants, could be Santa Fe, could be Las Lunas, Belen, Edgewood, right? It's the whole, whoever put it in there, just under 600. When I say gas, electric, and sewer, so it has to have sewer, that dropped to 337.
Yeah.
So 1/10.
Interesting. And I'm gonna guess that there might be some gray area there too on what's available. The thing is, when I talk to home builders that are doing production building, okay, let's call it what it is, tract building, right? They're building a tract of land. It's a subdivided neighborhood, all built out with curb, gutter, utilities, everything ready to go. They're still paying $100,000 just for that.
Yeah, and it's not an acre.
Right.
No.
Yeah, no, that's just a 40,
A city
50 wide, 40 wide, 50 wide lot. Yes.
Okay,
yeah,
so
sure.
I'm gonna go back to other stats.
Okay.
Rio Rancho. So I didn't do how many of those 3,000 were in Rio Rancho, but probably a lot of those lots were. But what I looked at was ones with gas and electric available, stubbed in, on property, in the street, at line, one of those classifications. There's 14 of them available. So you think about, probably of that 3,000, probably 2,000 at least are Rio Rancho land. Maybe not. Maybe it's 1,000.
Yeah. And there's a lot of those. And some
There's
of those
a lot
are,
of them.
listed for $1,000, right? Because they're just way out in the middle of, there's just nothing there. Okay, but
So
for
gas
those,
and electric, there's 14 on the market.
Price. What are the prices?
The prices are $45,000 up to $4.8 million for 10.39 acres on Unser Boulevard across from Cabazon.
Oh, that's a
But
neighborhood,
for actual city, buildable up to $239. But It's mostly 150 and below
Got
for
it.
Rio Rancho. There's one in pending, and then there's 25 closed in the last year, averaging 145,000 per acre.
Got it.
Two of them, the most expensive two, were on 14th Street and 15th Street, so just west of Rust Hospital.
Okay.
And I would assume they had big views back to the mountains, for somebody to build a custom home. So that's, different from North Albuquerque Acres, where we have a lot of arroyos and things that change it. On the north side of the street in North Albuquerque Acres, people like the north side of the street. It has a little premium because the backyard faces the mountains.
Yeah.
So people like that view. In Rio Rancho, it's the east side of the street with a backyard facing the river and the mountains up, across from Rust. There's a gradual slope upward there. And it's a lot of single story custom homes right in there. So they have big mountain views from the other side of the river looking back at the mountain.
Correct.
Which is beautiful. So those are them. I just pulled one other area of town just to have some more land stats. I know. The valley. So this is the whole valley, North Valley from I-40 north. There's 17 on the market with gas and electric available. And the average list price per acre is $495. There's some parcels like 6.8 acres on Rio Grande for $2.7 million. But they start at $179. The cheapest in the valley right now with gas and electric, which happens to be on a paved street, is 1808 Calle Barbarita for $179.9. And it's a nice little neighborhood of beautiful homes with a beautiful landscaping. It's Griegos between Rio Grande and 12th Street.
So there's a lot of options.
And it happens to be listed by
by you.
Venturi Realty.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Oh, I know about that one.
You put the sign in the ground.
Sign up.
But that's the cheapest one on the market right now by $35,000.
Interesting.
In the North Valley that has gas and electric, and it happens to be on a paved street around beautiful homes.
So just to wrap this conversation, so if people are thinking about, buying some land, either using it for future development or just maybe as an investment to park some money or to build, there's lots of options obviously around Albuquerque.
There are. My biggest takeaway is get with someone who really knows land as your realtor and talk to builders and have them look at the land before you buy it. Kind of look at, like the Parade of Homes was great. You go tour homes, you meet builders like Stillbrook and Abrazo and Westway and Pulte and D.R. Horton, Twilight. Some of those will build on your lot. I know Twilight will. I don't know about Westway. But anyway, we can help you with a builder. Stillbrook will build on your lot. And have them come and look at the lot and make sure that what you're buying is you can build what you want on it and make it in your price range.
And then if somebody needs help putting together a financing package for that, we can turn them on to the right people to help with that, because that is a very specialized little world if you're going to be doing that. So Tracy, wait, we have to get to these questions.
Okay, but I just have to say we have so many open houses this weekend. Several houses have come on the market.
Yeah.
60 Camino Vega Verde, the south end of Corrales, $1,195,000 is open Saturday from 11 to 1. So right after the show, come see it. Get on the website. There's, Grace in Corrales, 450, gorgeous house in Rio Rancho.
I was going to say it's not Corrales.
Not Corrales, in Rio Rancho.
We have another new listing. I might as well mention it since we're talking about new listings. With one on Camino del Oro up in the Northeast Heights, 87111. It's has like the most amazing backyard swimming pool, oasis thing going on there.
And that one's open Sunday?
I believe so, but I don't have it in front of me. But
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw the photos of the backyard. It's pretty spectacular.
And
the house is nice too.
Yeah.
And it's close to Spain and Wyoming or Eubank or something. So yeah, look for that
I'm
one.
not going to guess. I'm not going to guess that. I don't remember. Okay. So Tracy, I did want to hit on this because something came up, and, we do this every day, and these questions come up, and we were saying, okay, well, you have these contingencies when you put the home under contract as a buyer. And they were like, well, what's a contingency? And so basically a contingency is a let's see, a
something
term,
in the contract.
a term in the contract that allows the buyer to look at certain things to make sure that they are good with the purchase and they can move forward
So
with the purchase.
let's talk about what those might be. So a financing contingency. If you say, I'm going to buy this house contingent on getting this loan, that's a contingency. And sometimes, at the end, the loan doesn't work out. And that would be a reason why, the contingency is in place.
And along with that, it could be an appraisal contingency. And we do have that as a standard, meaning it does have to appraise for the correct value. And I don't want to get into weeds on that, but that's one of the contingencies. It could be inspecting the home. Again, these are, all those things are negotiable, and the buyer can have inspections and have a contingency having the home purchased subject to those inspections.
Okay.
It could be, this is one of real standard contingency in the sense that, hey, I'll buy it, but I have to sell my other home first. So subject to the sale of a current home.
So we also had a seller question this week.
Yeah.
Okay. So the seller said, what happens after I get an offer and I get it accepted? Once it's accepted, what happens?
Yeah, I thought that was a great question. Again, it's like we take these things for granted, but there's a whole process that happens where the buyer ties into our first question. Is the buyers doing their due diligence, doing their different inspections and all their contingencies, right? And at the same time, getting title fixed up, and the buyer is basically making the home available for all these different inspections and appraisals.
The seller
right?
is making it available.
Did I say buyer? Okay.
Yeah. The seller's making the home available for all the different inspections. But, what's a seller doing while their home is under contract, right? They're figuring out where they're moving to, how they're going to pack, who's going to help them, what moving trucks, they have all those logistics to be thinking about, because really it's heavy on the buyer's side, doing their inspections and getting their loan, if it's a loan, taken care of. But the seller's sort of just waiting to see if the buyer's good with the condition of the house, if their loan is going to be good, but they're also trying to figure out the logistics of packing and moving.
Yeah.
So
fun times.
Yeah. But we do it every day and it works. And,
yeah, it
and
does.
we love it.
It does.
So,
it does. No,
yeah.
it is a process. Tracy, again, if people want to get a hold of us.
Yeah. Our website, welcomehomeabq.com. Find Tigo on YouTube. So much great information there. We're obviously on Facebook. Phone number 448-8888. We have a great team of people that work with both home buyers and home sellers. So we'd be happy to hear from you.
And land. And
see, yeah, I know I counted one day. I have sold over 200 parcels of land. So anyway, yeah, reach out and we'd love to help you.
We're the Venturi Realty Group with Real Broker here in Albuquerque. Thanks again for watching. And like I said, we were voted the #2 podcast in the Albuquerque area. It's kind of cool. I think it's just because we've been doing it for so long. Maybe that's how we got there. So,
Maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks everybody. Have a great week.